is the yeah it is. Okay. Got a solid 60 seconds before we jump into the fray. Um I honestly could transition over here, get warmed up, get my voice ready to start talking. I gotta sound really, really cool when I do this introduction. And you guys know how it is. So let's slide over into it. Okay, there it is. Here we are. We are back. We have returned from our interstellar vacation, and it is Tuesday, February 8th, and you guys are on. I'm sorry, you have been marooned on Clash Island, the show where we talk about everything from anime to movies to video games to pop culture to 90s nostalgia, everything in between, current events, etc. I am your host with the most. You can call me DEFF-SOUL. I also go by Darian, seeing as how it is my name. Thank you guys for coming over to the channel today. Okay, so we've rebuilt the structure of this show because this essentially was just a talk show about anime. We absolutely will still discuss anime on this channel, but for today, let's focus more on the current events section of it because we got a lot to talk about. Now, I've split it up into four main categories. I try to, pepper some extra information in there as I transition into each different talking point. But for now, we're going to start out with what's going on right now. We're going to talk about what is going on with Brian Flores suing the NFL for suspicion of racial discrimination in reference to him being hired as a head coach. We're also going to talk about what's going on with Nick Cannon. As you guys know, expecting his count 'em, eighth baby from his fifth different baby mama. It's a big hectic situation. And Microsoft versus Sony, how these big wigs of technology and gaming are just buying up and committing all these different acquisitions. I said that wrong. Acquisitions. There we go. Of all these other companies just to battle each other out. So the gaming wars is still in full effect. I hope nobody thinks that it was over. And last but not least, Joe Rogan has been canceled? We're definitely going to get into that, but let's start off in chronological order with my man Brian Flores, and I'm going to have some of the highlights of the Miami Dolphins playing in the background as we discuss this. Okay. Excuse me. I did not mean to do that. Okay. So I don't know how well you guys know the NFL. I don't know how well versed you are with its structure, its history, and how black players and black executives and black head coaches are viewed in the NFL, as this time goes on. The NFL has been around for, what is it? I think on 103 seasons. And in that 103 seasons, we've only seen a few black head coaches hired over time. It's absolutely racial discrimination. It's absolutely evidence of black people not being seen as viable sources. Now, big story, 6 years ago, as you guys remember, Colin Kaepernick, former quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers, put it all on the line and let everybody know, hey, there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the NFL. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in this country that I absolutely do not approve of being a black man. And the thing that he specifically started to protest against by taking a knee during the national anthem was police brutality against blacks and other minorities, which is an undeniable fact in this country. Instead of the NFL hearing him out, saying, okay, we stand with you, Colin. We appreciate the nonviolent protest. We appreciate how you quietly and calmly decided to take this stance or take this knee to protest against something that is clearly very sensitive to you being a black man. It's just sad because it absolutely did not go that way. Colin Kaepernick didn't play another down in the NFL, and that was 2016. And the reason being is because there was racial bias against what he was protesting. Instead of them saying, Okay, let's look at this objectively. Since we're not black, let's look at this how it's affecting black people. And he essentially was blacklisted for speaking the truth. And people tried to pull the all lives matter crap out on him. That's where it started, where he was saying, why would I stand up for a symbol of oppression and racism that my people have been facing since we were first brought to this country, and it's still going on today? Why would I show respect to my masters when they've been doing nothing but pissing on the very law that they swore to protect? I'm not going to raise the flag and put my hand over my chest to support people who disrespect me, who murder me without due processing, who throw me in jail for minor offenses, who have been using their badge and using their station as police officers to essentially enslave and abuse my people. How could you argue against that? I'll tell you how. They deflected like I had never seen an organization do. And it wasn't just the NFL themselves, it was also the fans, mostly the fans. Oh, he's disrespecting the flag, he's disrespecting the military, he's disrespecting veterans by doing stuff that it had nothing to do with the military. Not once did he say he was protesting against the military, but that's what people do when they realize that they're wrong. Instead of them, okay, we're wrong, let's look at how to get right, they'll tell everybody that is you're the problem. It is such a damaging thing when people who are not black try to tell you what black people experience. And then when you get upset, they tell everybody, oh, he's the angry black man. Don't listen to that guy. He is the angry black man. He's selfish. People even insinuated that he was only protesting systemic racism so he could become the starter again. He was benched early in 2016. He was having a bad season. He was having a bad season. The offense changed around him. And he essentially was benched for, if I remember correctly, it was Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert started playing terribly like he always has. And Colin Kaepernick took back over. After he had been medically clear, he took back over. He threw 16 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, if I remember correctly, which by all standards it's a pretty good ratio. It's a 4.0 ratio from touchdown to interception. He didn't play another down in the NFL. And the very thing that Brian Flores is alluded to is the exact thing that Colin Kaepernick was talking about 6 whole years ago. How whenever you tell somebody, hey, I'm not cool with this, and I feel like there's some bias going on here, and it's not based on, my actual resume as a coach, as an executive, as a player, but I feel like I'm being stepped over because I'm black. Colin Kaepernick had to sue the NFL. Brian Flores is suing the NFL, and I'm absolutely 100% behind him. I have to say this, though. I'm worried about him. I am worried about him being a head coach again in this NFL, because you know how it is with organizations when they have a reputation to uphold. They will oust you because you sued them. And I do think the Texans hiring Lovie Smith was them saying, oh, look, well, here's another black head coach. We're not racist. Look. Even though the NFL is a non-profit organization, they don't necessarily do the hiring. It's the clubs themselves that pick their coaches. And, with Houston Texans being a Texas team, they have a pretty bloody and decorated, what's the word I'm looking for? They have a notorious history for being racist. It's a red state. So they said, oh, well, we don't know what he's talking about. We hired a black coach. Okay, so now that's 2 black head coaches instead of being just 1. But there's 32 teams. So you're telling me out of 32 teams, only 2 head coaches are black? But you want to tell everybody there's no bias going on here. You cannot tell me that there aren't at least 5 to 8 more qualified black head coaches in the NFL. There absolutely is. But this is what we're always talking about. When people sit there and you tell them, hey, you're doing something that I'm not okay with, instead of them looking at it objectively and saying, okay, let's look into this and see what he's saying, you get told that you're crazy. or that you don't know what you're talking about. And it's incredibly frustrating. I can't imagine what he's going through. It's got to be a very damaging situation. It really has to be, because that's a hard thing to prove. But I do think his situation would go a little differently than Colin Kaepernick's situation, because his was mostly based off stuff that he had seen in the past, which he also had a case. But with this situation, Brian Flores may have a quote-unquote paper trail of evidence proving that the New York Giants, one of the 3 teams he sued, if I remember correctly, he's suing the New York Giants, he's suing the Denver Broncos, and the Miami Dolphins, all for the same reason. Now, in the particular case of the Giants, Bill Belichick, who is connected with the Mara family, I want to say his name is John Mara. His family, they own the New York Football Giants, right? He's very well connected with them. I believe they're old friends. There's a proverbial inner circle in the NFL when it comes to leadership and the executive level, and Bill Belichick is connected to them. Belichick texted Brian Flores, one of his former coaches, and congratulated him on the new hiring of him being hired as the Giants head coach. But that's not what was actually going down. The Giants were not hiring Brian Flores. They were hiring Brian Daboll. You see where the confusion came in there. Brian Daboll, the former offensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills. When he realized his mistake, of course, when he said it to him, Brian Flores was confused. He says, okay, what job are you talking about? The Giants head coaching position? I don't even interview for that job until Thursday. He got texted on Monday. Okay, so there's some confusion here. When when Belichick realized what had happened, he says, okay, I'm sorry, my bad. I got the Bryans mixed up. Excuse me if I F this up. Is what he told Brian Flores. So being the intelligent man that Brian Flores is, he says to himself, wait a minute. If he told me on Monday that the position had been filled, but you got me interviewing for that same position on Thursday, something's wrong here. Why would you interview me for a job that you already know you had already filled? You already found your guy. Something's going on here. Now, granted, every team has the right to hire whichever coach they feel most comfortable with leading their franchise. Whichever coach they think they would be most successful with. That is a thing. It is a thing. However, why in the hell would you make somebody still go through an interview process for a job that they know that they're not going to get? And you know they're not going to get it because you already hired your guy. Why would you even make somebody sit through that? That's embarrassing. We've all been in a situation like that where somebody has a friend that's applying for a job, maybe fresh out of high school or college or something like that, has absolutely no experience, but because you know the guy, you're going to get stepped over for the position, even though you have all the experience in the world. You got all the experience in the world. You're being stepped over for it. Now, I know to the casual viewer, you're like, well, how does that translate to racial discrimination? Because, again, once you look at this situation objectively, you're like, okay, I actually was a head coach before. I was a head coach. Brian Flores, I'm speaking of, with the Miami Dolphins, and that's why I have their highlights playing in the background. Do you know this team with a bad offensive line, very bad offensive line, mediocre running game, a quote-unquote depleted roster, and a, no offense to Tua Tagovailoa, but let's be real, a garden variety quarterback play? He was not stellar these last 2 years. He was just okay. With all of that going on, you had 2 straight winning seasons. You had 10 wins a season ago. He did all of that. 2 straight winning seasons with all of that going on. Yeah, this man knows what he's doing. Brian Daboll's never been a head coach before. How can you justify stepping over him, Brian Flores, for Brian Daboll? And that's where the whole situation comes in at, because the only thing that you can clearly point to is the fact that they're more comfortable with him. He makes them feel more comfortable because he's white. His resume doesn't support it. Now, some people can say, oh, well, we just feel more comfortable with Brian Daboll. Okay, explain that. You may not even feel like you need to explain it, but just to, if you get accused of something like this, because this is serious claims, if you get accused of something like this, explain it. What do you mean you're more comfortable with him than me? But I have the recipe and the resume to get you to a winning season. I have the skill set on paper to show that I can turn this organization around. He doesn't. So what is it? What is it about me that you're not comfortable with? And some people say, oh, well, you know, Brian Flores has a history of being, you know, a bit headstrong, a bit intense, a bit strong-willed, you know, my way or the highway. Excuse me, wasn't Tom Coughlin like that? And you won 2 Super Bowls with him and Eli Manning, right? So it can't be that. So what's the difference between Tom Coughlin and Brian Flores? What's the difference? It's right there in your face. Tom Coughlin's white, Brian Flores is black. So he has a bit of evidence right there. But I want to shift over to the claims that he made against the Miami Dolphins, because this one is a little more serious. From what he claims and from what his lawyers brought to the NFL, they brought to the Miami Dolphins organization when they initiated the lawsuit, the owner of the Miami Dolphins allegedly approached Brian Flores this past season and offered him $100,000 a game to essentially throw the game, to coach badly so they would lose on purpose, so they could get more draft capital to find a better quarterback, because they don't have confidence in Tua. They're ready to move off Tua right now. They're just like, you know what? We made a mistake. He's not our guy. He plays too small. He's mediocre. Offensive line is bad. I don't think he can take us to the next level, which that's a fair point. That's a fair point. He has not been what they hoped when they drafted him in the first round a couple years ago. So if that is true, you guys do know that that is directly against the NFL's policy in reference to keeping competition fair. You cannot pay a head coach hush money, essentially, to throw games for draft capital. That's basically point shaving. You're losing on purpose to get draft capital. Now, some people call it tanking. Like, you can't necessarily prove that, but I've never heard a situation where a head coach fires... a NFL owner fires a head coach because he refused to lose games on purpose. They still had a chance to make the playoffs. They lost one or two many games here and there, but they were not far off. The Dolphins' defense is very good, very opportunistic. I think they had like a long streak. I want to say it was like 9 games or so, maybe longer, where they had at least one turnover for a touchdown on defense. They were nice, all defensive. They were nice. No big names here and there, but they had players who know how to box when they get on the field. You know, that's an invaluable asset. So I get where Brian Flores is coming from. Like, no, I'm not gonna sell my guys out like that. How would that translate into them being better football players if I purposely put them in situations where they would lose more? I'm not doing that. What self-respected head coach would? When you can still, if you want to get a better quarterback, okay, you can find one in free agency. You can make some moves there, but I'm not losing games on purpose. you off your rocker. You think I'm doing that? So if that is true, if they have proof of that, this is way more serious. And the owner of the Miami Dolphins will essentially have the team taken from him. He'll no longer be an owner if they have that in proof. If they got checks and balances, they got names and dates. If Brian Flores and his legal team has that, yeah, this is going to blow up even bigger than that. And lastly, with the situation that's going on with the Denver Broncos, he's also suing them. He alleges that John Elway, the general manager of I think he's the president of the team, if I remember correctly. John Elway and another executive that works with him was an hour late to the Zoom meeting for the job interview for head coach of the Denver Broncos. They were an hour late, and when they finally did show up, Brian Flores alleges that they were drunk. They appeared to be drunk and lethargic, and they did not take the job interview serious. Now this one is I don't know how much water this one carries. I don't know how much weight this one will carry. Because one, again, yes, this is hard to prove because this is essentially an attack on their physical appearance, which from the way John Elway reacted, I honestly don't know who to believe in this situation. He was pissed. Like, he was pissed. He said, well, first of all, I get what you're going through right now, not being picked up as a head coach. You're a very talented young head coach, and I'm sure you'll be picked up somewhere. But to essentially make these kinds of claims about me as a professional, me as a man, saying that I came to the meeting drunk and that I was late, I have a serious problem with that, and that is very disrespectful. And who the hell do you think you are to tell people that you think I was drunk coming to a meeting? Like, he was mad. And they immediately, emphatically denied it. And because of how emotional he got, based on the responses came from Brian Flores' legal team, I honestly don't know who to believe. Because I know if it was me, if I'm out here hiring people for head coach, and somebody made a claim like that, yeah, I'd be kind of agitated because this is my career you're talking about. You're not going to make me appear to be some drunk when I'm interviewing you. Now, so for that one, I honestly don't know how that's going to turn out. But based on what's going on with the Denver Broncos and the way they hired or where they're doing their hiring process, they hired, in my opinion, somebody who would be good as their head coach. They hired Nathaniel Hackett, the former offensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers. I think that is actually a good pickup, because you can still get your hands on Aaron Rodgers through that connection. So that one would make sense. For the casual fans out there who don't know, there is a rule in the NFL called the Art Rooney Rule, I want to say it is. The Rooney Rule, which was established back in 2003. The rule states that every NFL, to increase diversity with the hiring process of head coach and etc., the NFL clubs, the 32 teams, are required to interview at least 2 minority head coaches, head coaching candidates outside of house. That means they're not already affiliated with your team. Interview 2 black head coaching candidates that was not already on your team's payroll. That was put in effort to increase diversity in the hiring process for the head coaches. However, that does not mean you absolutely have to hire a black head coach. It just gives more opportunities to black head coaching candidates to get jobs out there. Black executives to also be hired as general managers, as team presidents, etc. Right? Now the intentions is something on my face. The intentions behind the rule were just, and they were done correctly, but when you think about it, you just have to interview 2 black people. That doesn't mean you have to hire them. Now, the reason why Brian Flores' situation in reference to the Giants will carry more weight is because when you look at it, historically speaking, the Giants have been around for 90-plus years in the NFL. They're one of the oldest teams in the league. They have never had a black head coach. If I really want to throw the number out, I think the team has been around for 97 years in the NFL. 97 years. Never had a black head coach. And they've only had one black assistant coach. So when they say, oh, well, we did interview, this guy and this guy, we just picked the guy that we always choose. Yeah, we know that. That's what you guys always has done. Like, you've always picked a guy that you felt comfortable with. None of them have ever been black in 97 years. You want to prove to everybody that you're not using your own racism systemically to hire coaches? How in the hell in 90-plus years, almost 100 years, you have never hired a black head coach? How have you never hired a black head coach? That doesn't make sense. The Jaguars have only been around, 26, 27 years? They've had a black head coach before. You've been around, over 8 times that? 8 times that long? Never had a black head coach. That's called doing the bare minimum. And to quote Sam Ancho, if you do the bare minimum, it means you didn't want to do it in the first place. So that makes them look bad. In regards to me, that makes them look bad. Okay, so now that we've discussed that, we are going to shift gears over to what is going on with Nick Cannon. So let me slide over. First of all, pause this. Let's talk about Nick Cannon. Let me start off by saying, because I always say something positive before I say something negative, right? Before I nitpick or criticize something that somebody has done or has said, I always say something positive first. So here we go. Nick Cannon is a very successful, very intelligent, very funny TV personality, host, former rapper, whatever you want to call him. He is an entertainer. He knows how to put on a great show. The man just, everything he touches seems to work. And I couldn't be happier for him, his success, and his family. But not everything is all green in the hood, if you know what I mean. I want to start off by saying, essentially, this man, you can do whatever you want. That's the whole point of being an adult. You can essentially do whatever you want with whoever you want. As you guys know, Nick Cannon was formerly married to Mariah Carey. They got married back in 2008. They got divorced in 2014. And what is that? 6 years, right? They were married for 6 years. And in that 6 year span, they had twins. I think they had twin girls, if I remember correctly. And then unfortunately that marriage didn't work out, and then they got divorced and went on to separate relationships and etc. Since then, since 2014, Nick Cannon has fathered an additional 6 children. No biggie. An additional 6 children. Technically 7. Unfortunately, one of his sons passed away. I'm not sure exactly what it was. He was sick when he was born, and he unfortunately didn't make it. So my heart bleeds for him. And my condolences absolutely still goes out to him. And this was a while ago that this was reported. You know, this isn't new, but the situation is new. He has fathered 6 additional children since he got divorced in 2014. The issue comes in that is because he's fathered 6 additional children in 4 different households. Nick Cannon now has 8 children from 5 different baby mamas. I want to say, before I go into this, I do not judge anybody, but I do address you by the things that you do and the things that you say. It's like my favorite quote: "You are what you do." You spend your life lying to people, you're a liar. No matter what you feel like, if you lie a lot, you're a liar. You spend your life killing people, you're a murderer. You spend your life stealing from people, you're a thief, etc. You are what you do. In this situation, people are like, "Oh, well, what's the problem if he could provide for his families? He can do this and that." Him being able to financially support them has nothing to do with the fact that he himself has a situation where he has essentially purposely created 5 different broken families. The first one was incidental. They didn't work out. But from out of his own mouth, he claims that he is doing this because he has lupus and he believes he is not going to be around much longer, and he wants a legacy to leave behind. Excuse me, Nick. So your 2 twins, your twins, that's not a legacy that you have from Mariah? Now get it? Again, the relationship didn't work out. You went and started something new. How did you go and start something new 4 more times? 5 different women, 8 different children, 5 different households. The problem where this comes in at is, I'm not denying the fact that Nick Cannon loves and supports his children. I mean, come on, you can look at the man and tell he loves and supports his children. The issue that I have comes in the father figure in the household is essential, is key, is extremely vital to a child's life. Every child will always need their dad. Whether that's you or somebody else that they put in that father figure role. You need to be there. A caring, loving, and present father. I think he checks the other two off the boxes. Checks the other two boxes, but present is where I feel like that's going to become an issue. Because if you're over here taking care of Tommy, how are you going to be over here taking care of Heather? If you go and see, I think Moroccan and I forgot what, I don't know all his children's names, but if you're over here visiting these two kids, what about the other six? You're going to disappoint somebody, because it is a scientific fact that you can't be in two places at once. You're gonna miss somebody's birthday. You're gonna miss somebody's ballet recital. Your sons or your daughters are gonna want to have to sit down and talk to you about how they're being bullied in school. Dad, I want to talk to you about something. There's this girl I like, but I don't know how to tell her. Dad, I'm freaking out about what dress I want to wear to prom. I don't know which one to pick. What do you think I should do? Dad, I got this very important test coming up that if I do well on it, I'll position well and I'll be able to go to college, on a full ride scholarship. But I'm nervous. I would like to talk to you about it. You have to be there for shit like that, man. And I don't mean on the phone. That does not suffice as you being a present, caring, and loving father. Now, again, I am not ruling out the fact that Nick wants to be there for his kids. I know he does. You look at him and tell he wants to be there for his kids. How are you going to do that? How are you going to do that when you're over here looking after these? You got to go from 5 different households just to see your kids. Unless by some chance all 5 of your baby mamas agree to live all under one mansion, in one gigantic mansion. If they agree to that, then I'm gonna shut my mouth. I'm gonna shut my mouth. But let's be real. What baby mama would do that? You really think your baby mamas would be like, oh, okay, yeah, let's move in with these other women and their children? No, you all got something in common. They all have you in common. And I don't care what anybody says, when you have children with somebody, you will always be emotionally connected to them. That's something spiritual. When you have somebody's kids, you will be always emotionally connected to them. Same thing as the kids. The reason why I have an issue with this, the reason why this is wrong, is because the kids did not ask to share their dad with 4 different households. None of your children asked to be here. Nick, this isn't cool. I'm sorry. I do not approve. Because if a woman was doing what he's doing, the society would call her a whore. I don't like this. I don't like this because, again, and we argued about this on Facebook for hours yesterday. People were like, oh, well, some people out there like, oh, well, he can provide for his kids and stuff like that. How many times have you guys seen in movies and TV shows or in real life where a rich kid gets whatever they want, right, from their parents, money-wise, financially wise, get whatever they want. They're being supported, but their dad and their mom are always gone. So you know what? They grow up to resent their parents for being absent. Money cannot buy you a child's love. It can't. You could buy them a whole goddamn zoo, an amusement park, every new pair of designer clothes, etc. It does not suffice you being present. Some of the fondest memories I have in my life was with my dad. That is an invaluable bond. You cannot miss out on stuff like that. You can't. Your kids will grow up to hate you, and they will have every reason to, because again, they didn't ask for that. I was fortunate enough, thank God, I was fortunate enough to have my dad in my life the entire time. He was there the entire time. A loving, caring, and present father. And he was not always the best dad. He didn't say the right thing all the time. But my dad taught me how to ride a bike. My dad taught me how to tie my shoes. He taught me multiplication. He taught me how to fight. I used to be outside throwing the football back and forth with my dad. He and I had this father and son bond where, you know how some dads take their sons hunting or fishing or teach their sons about cars. My dad used to take me to the movies. Just he and I. Let alone, set aside my sisters and my mom. It was just between he and I. That's a father-son bond that was invaluable to me being there on the weekends, early in the morning, watching movies with my dad, and it's been going on for decades. A tradition that we carry to this day. He's my dad, I'm his son. You have got to be there for shit like that. That shit was incredibly important to me. That was incredibly important to me. I cannot imagine being a man and not having experienced that. I cannot imagine that. Now, again, I'm not saying Nick Cannon won't be there for those moments, but he can't be there to have those moments with all 8 of his kids in 5 different households. That's literally impossible until they start cloning people. If they start cloning people, then, whatever. But because that shit is considered an abomination, the human race doesn't support that. You got to look at this shit objectively. Yes, he can afford to get his kids whatever they need. But to have your dad knock on the door, hey son, hey daughter, how are you? How are you doing? Do you need to talk to me about anything? Well, yeah, Dad, there's some things that I would like to talk to you about. Some things that I haven't been absolutely honest about. I've been nervous about this. I've been depressed. I've been scared. I've been sad. I've been angry. I've been confused. I've been unsure of myself. What should I do? Dad, how do I handle this situation? Those are the type of questions that make you a parent. That's what makes you a parent. Not buying your kids shit. It's not all about that. Now, yes, your kids will always need clothes, shoes, food, and shelter. They'll always need that, right? They'll always need dentists and doctor bills, and they'll always need shots, and they'll always need, eye exams and things of that nature. That's not enough. I hear so many deadbeat dads, and yes, just because you're paying for some shit, yeah, you can still be a deadbeat dad. I hear so many deadbeat dads saying, shit, I take care of my kids. Child support doesn't count. That does not count. I'm talking about what is the bond that you have with your children. Are your children connected to you through the money? That's not a connection, dude. So again, I'm not cool with this shit. I don't like the framework of his mindset behind this. I get it. He feels like he is not going to be around much longer. My heart bleeds for him because I don't know what that's like to feel like your clock is ticking. You don't know when this whole thing is going to be done, when you're going to be finished. Your story is going to come to an end. You want to leave a legacy behind. Okay, you started a legacy years ago when you had your children from Mariah. So that cannot be your reason. You're essentially trying to justify being a hoe, Nick. Find a woman, create a family, be with her. I get it. When you're a celebrity, you cannot be around like that because to make his money, he has to travel. He has to be gone. So your kids already have to deal with that, right? The fact that their dad's a public figure, that he's a TV entertainer, a TV personality, he's going to be gone a lot already. So let's say he's not working and he has free time. What if it's not your week, your month to see your dad because he's at another household seeing his other kids? Do you know what that does to a child's mindset when their dad is visiting the other family with the other kids? They can't see their dad because the dad was with the other kids, the other baby mama, the other family. That makes you feel like, from everybody who I know, hundreds of people who I've met who grew up in a broken household where their dad was not around, they all tell me the same thing. When the dad went out and started another family, they all tell me how it made them feel. It made them feel like they were a mistake for being born. Like, why am I here? I have a dad who I don't get to see because he is over here with this chick and her kids. Why would you purposely put a child in a situation for them to feel like that? I could not, as a man, I could not do that to my kids. Now, again, this may have been done inadvertently by Nick, but at the same time, you gotta take some credit for that shit. You gotta take some responsibility for that. Well, I don't know all his baby mamas. I don't, and honestly, it's irrelevant. But I'm pretty sure it's a damaging thing where the kids ask their baby mamas, "Mom, where's my dad? Like, is he coming to see me?" And for the mom to tell them, son, daughter, I don't know. I don't know where he is. He might be with his other families. Like, you don't want to hear that as a kid. You don't. He might be with his other families. I don't know when he's coming to see you. Oh, will he make it to my baseball practice? Will he make it to my ballet recital? I don't know. He's with his other families. Your kids didn't ask for that, Nick. They did not ask for that. You got to answer that. You got to answer for that. Like I said, if it's not okay for women to have 5 different baby daddies, it's not okay for you to have 5 different baby mamas. That's not okay. And I hate when people say, oh, it was a mistake. How do you make that same mistake 5 different times? How? 8 different children. That's not a mistake. That was done on purpose. People kill me with that. Sex is never a mistake. It's never an accident. It's never something that wasn't pre-planned in your head. You planned the whole thing. Whether you want to admit that or not is irrelevant. You planned the whole thing. You hooked up with this chick. Maybe y'all dated for a while. Maybe you didn't. Got her pregnant. She had babies. And then you went and did that again with somebody else. And with somebody else. And with somebody else. Not a mistake, dude. And Nick himself has acknowledged that he may have mishandled this situation in the way he announced that he was expecting an 8th baby. That baby number 8 is on the way. The way he handled that situation, he apologized for. The way the information got to his other baby mamas, because that really will make you go, well, goddamn, again? Like, you already got kids from me and from her and from her and from her. You're having another kid with somebody else? Like, at some point you got to go, okay, like, you need to keep it in your pants, man. You need to be celibate. Or if you're gonna have sex, which you are, you're a man, you're a grown man, you can do whatever you want. If you're gonna have sex, oh, it's time. It's time to get a vasectomy. It's time. My family had 6 kids, and people say we got a lot of kids. You got 2 additional. But all 6 of my siblings are from the same 2 parents. So it's a little different. It's a little different. It's not proper. The way this situation is going, it's not proper. It's not right. It's not done well. I really feel like he didn't consider the ramifications of his actions and the emotional toll that it would take on his kids. You know, the baby mamas, they asked for that situation. Because, again, he's a public figure. You did not know who he was and what his love life looked like because he's a celebrity. You knew who he was before you got with him. Everybody did except essentially Mariah. You know, she found out, you know, after the fact. But everybody after her, you knew what he was. Like, come on. You knew what he was. So, you know, the baby mamas, they asked for this situation. The kids didn't. I'm always kids first. I love kids. I'm always kids first. You have to think about them first. Because no kid asks to be here. No kid asks to share their dad with other kids in other households in other cities. Now, if all 8 of his kids live in, I don't know where Nick lives. He probably lives in L.A. They all live in L.A. or New York or whatever. That makes it a little better. But for some reason, this situation started to remind me of that movie. What was it? Not Man of the Year. Oh, was it? No, it wasn't Man of the Year. That was starring Robin Williams. The movie that was starring Vince Vaughn. I cannot think of what it was called. Where he was that sperm donor who his sperm was so potent that he essentially fathered over 100 children, right? But it was done through a sperm bank. And what happened? When the kids got of age, they all decided to go and find each other because they all had the same donor. They went and found each other, and they came up with this foundation. They sued the sperm bank to get information, which that was a breach of the contract that sperm bank had with Vince Vaughn's character. I think his name was David Wozniak or something like that. The contract that they had with him was that he decided to remain anonymous, but they sued the sperm bank so they can find out who their dad is, right? They all those kids of different races and different backgrounds, they all want to know who their dad was. And once he realized that, he was like, you know what? Because he met them before he told them who he was. He met them. And they were all great people. They were all great kids. They all turned out great. And him realizing, you know what? I've robbed these kids of something. I've robbed them of that father-child bond that they've been looking for since they were born. And he did something that was incredibly manly, incredibly brave in the movie. I'm probably gonna watch this when I'm done with this. When I'm done with this episode, he did something incredibly brave and incredibly manly. He outed himself as their father, like because he realized that bond that he was robbing those kids of, even if it was inadvertently. He was just a sperm donor. He did. He needed cash. So he had every reason in the world to not reach out to those kids. It wasn't his job to. But he said, you know what? Those kids didn't ask to be here. Right? They didn't ask to be here. Let me reach out to my babies. They deserve to know who their father is. They didn't ask to be raised in a broken household. They didn't ask to be essentially born through science. They didn't ask for that because a lot of them, came from same-sex parenting households. And, at some point their parents had to explain to them, their two moms or their two dads had to explain to them, well, you didn't come from me. You came from whoever this guy is over here. We went to a bank and we had you through insemination. Right? So when that happened, he did something that, that really, he understood his assignment. And if you want to take it on the modern sense, he understood the assignment. He says, you know what? Even though I didn't ask to be anybody's father, they didn't ask to be anybody's kid either. So let me take the first step. Let me be the man and give these kids a dad. And he said, well, he was starting a relationship with his girlfriend. She was pregnant. She was pregnant, and he told her, baby, guess what? I'm this guy, and I have over 100 kids. It's a miracle how this happened, but it happened. I have over 100 children. I'm their dad, and I'm going to be there for them. That's cool. And on any day, that's cool. All right, so we are coming up on the 50-minute mark. Real quick, before we shift over to the next topic, I saw this morning, well, actually I saw it late last night when I got up. Alvin Kamara was arrested for battery charges in Las Vegas before the Pro Bowl. Well, after the Pro Bowl, he was arrested, but for an alleged assault and battery charge on, I think it was a fan. Excuse me, at 6 o'clock in the morning at some nightclub in Vegas. And these charges are pretty serious. From what the victim is claiming, it happened when they were trying to get on the elevator, and I suppose from what I was reported on not first take, but on Undisputed with Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless, that the man who was assaulted and severely beaten was trying to enter the elevator where Alvin Kamara, his girlfriend, and some of his friends were getting on the elevator. And I believe Aaron Donald was with them. And somehow, some way, things got heated and words were exchanged. Next thing you know, Alvin Kamara and his friends are stomping the man into the ground. Witnesses say that Alvin Kamara punched him in the face about 8 times, and then another one of his friends stomped the man 16 times. Like, he could have been killed. He has his shattered orbital, bruised bone, broken bones, broken ribs, lacerations. Like, he was beaten really, really badly. And if this is true, Alvin Kamara's career could be in jeopardy. Before we go on to the next, I do want to say to all the athletes out there, I don't know when you guys are going to learn. I'm not saying the dude who is suing Alvin Kamara, who pressed charges on Alvin Kamara, wasn't the aggressor in this situation, because we still don't know all the facts. I'm not saying he wasn't the aggressor. He could have been. But as Alvin Kamara, how many times has a situation like this come up where a pro athlete a pro athlete has been out at a nightclub or a bar, and somebody approaches him with an attitude because he's like, oh, you're the celebrity, I'm the fan, I get to say whatever I want to you, and you're supposed to exercise restraint. And next thing you know, the athlete loses their temper, and they beat the crap out of the person who approached them. And they get locked up or they get sued, and then they gotta come out of pocket, and their career is in jeopardy. How many times has that happened in the past 20 years? Countless, right? When are you guys gonna learn your lesson? Stop going to these goddamn bars and clubs when you are supposed to be playing the game. Have a private party at your house if you want to party. But you know what it is with them? They want to be seen. The celebrities, they want to be seen. They want to show up with all their jewelry and their cars and their pretty girlfriends. They want to be seen. Stop it. Stop doing that. You are risking money and your freedom and your reputation. You are risking your career over 5 minutes of a discussion that you could have just brushed off and went on about your business. You're rich, talented, and you're a professional athlete, and you're a public figure. Go about your, do not go to those damn clubs and bars. There's always somebody who's going to be waiting for an opportunity to take everything you work for from you because they're jealous. They get drunk, they get high, they say things to your face because they know it's going to trigger you. Stop going to the bars and the clubs, man. Stay out of the bars and the clubs. Stay out of it. You don't need a drink with a bunch of other people being there. You don't need that. You are a pro athlete. Bring the party to you. Only invite people you know. But again, it's not even about that. It's about being seen with these men and these women. It's about they want to shine on somebody. They want to make somebody jealous. They want to get caught on camera. They want to hang out with the boys out in public and say, yeah, this is us. You can't sit with us. And now look what happened. My heart and soul goes out to the victim, goes out to Alan Kamara, because I know he's like, how did this happen, man? We were just chilling. We didn't even mean to beat dude's ass. If they did it, we didn't mean to beat dude's ass like that. This was just a mistake. We didn't mean for this to happen. And now you could be faced. Like, if this is true, you are absolutely going to be suspended. You're going to get sued. You may even be facing jail time. Now, with him being rich, he shouldn't face. It's a battery charge. Like, what? You might do a couple months, if that. But it's just the fact that now you got that stain on your resume. Alvin Kamara was a model citizen before this happened. Now you got that stain on your resume. That's connected to your name. If this is true, that's connected to your name for the rest of your career. People still bring up the charges that got brought against Ray Lewis, the essential murder charges that got brought up against Ray Lewis. And he got acquitted. He didn't even do it. They still talk about that. They still talk about the rape allegations against Ben Roethlisberger years ago. They still talk about it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm staying my ass out the club if it's me. Okay, so swapping over. Microsoft, my squad. That's my squad. Team Xbox, baby. We out here. Microsoft versus PlayStation. Excuse me. Microsoft versus Sony. Essentially PlayStation. As you guys know, have been really grinding lately when it comes to studio acquisitions. Microsoft, as everybody knows up until this point, just recently bought Activision Blizzard. Was it Blizzard Activision? It's Activision Blizzard, right? Studio that owns the rights to Call of Duty, to Guitar Hero, etc. Huge acquisition, right? Paid billions of dollars to bring them in. And I'm all for it, because if Phil Spencer is right and he's like, you know what, I'm so glad we bought the studio because now we can bring back franchises that I love, like Guitar Hero. And I don't know if y'all know me, but I was into some goddamn Guitar Hero. Guitar Hero, I'm crediting for getting me into rock music back in 2009. I want to say is when I first started listening to rock music. My parents bought me Guitar Hero Aerosmith for Christmas. Right, the whole guitar and everything, and I'm like, I'm not in rock music like that, but the contraption itself looked cool, so I played it, and it literally changed my life. It changed my perception of music. I remember the first song that I played on Guitar Hero Aerosmith. To this day, I played it. It was the Dream Police by Cheap Trick. And then song number 2 was All the Young Dudes by Martha Hoople. That led me to rock music. Then we went into Aerosmith music. Walk This Way. We moved into Draw the Line. We moved into Dream On to, oh God, what was that song called? New York was such a pity, but Max is Kansas City. We won. I can't remember. Oh, I can't remember. But brought me into their music. Then I moved from their music to I started listening to AC/DC. I started listening to Chicago. I started listening to REO Speedwagon. I started listening to Queen, to Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. And then we moved over to the Beatles. We moved over to Def Leppard. We moved over to Twisted Sister, to God, all the names are just running through my head right now. It's just so many different bands became a part of my active listening, right? If that's the case, if they can bring back Guitar Hero, like let me be the sponsor for it. Let me be the spokesperson for it. I will hype the shit out of that game. What they need to do is Guitar Hero Queen. I'm getting jealous. If they make that game, oh my, I'm gonna stream the shit out of that game. They gotta make this work. But that's the Xbox side of it. Oh my God, I'm like a little kid right now. I'm so jittery. But if they bring that back, I would be so happy, man. Oh my God, they cannot screw this up. Can you imagine people like the YouTubers out there getting together and then they do like a multi-live stream of them playing Guitar Hero as a band? They make like an actual like Twitch streamer band, and then they play a whole concert on Twitch. This shit is a gold mine. Like that's the next bubble for gaming if they bring that back. That DJ Hero is fucking lit, etc. Now I don't believe Call of Duty will become Xbox exclusive. I don't believe in that. PlayStation, they still have rights to the game too. They still have contracts in place. I don't think Microsoft is going to step on Sony's toes like that. But you never know. And I think it would improve and diminish the current market for Call of Duty right now if they were to do that, because Call of Duty on Xbox right now is not particularly doing well in reference to Warzone itself. Warzone is more or less it's like 2 steps away from being trash on Xbox, right? Connectivity issues, the graphics are bad, and then of course you still have the hindrance of playing on console. That's why so many people, Warzone literally changed gaming. So many people bought gaming PCs just for Warzone because the field of view is enhanced to 120. You can see way more on screen. Things render way faster, and you have an advantage when it comes to the smoothness of play, the ability to be able to flick your camera over for the horizontal turn sensitivity. Just it's an advantage. It's a sizable advantage that PC players have over console players. And when in reference to console, they definitely have a sizable advantage over Xbox players, right? So I think if it were to become console exclusive to Xbox, they would be able to figure some things out to make the game way more playable for Xbox players, but I don't see that happening. I don't. Now, PlayStation just bought, which studio was that? Not Sega. They just bought a big studio. I don't think it was, no, they already own Insomniac. We gotta do some research real quick. Sony purchases. Okay, so they bought Bungie. That's what it was. They bought Bungie. Now same thing. Bungie. What's the biggest game that they have? Destiny 2, right? Bungie being a PlayStation exclusive, I don't see that happening either. But it's a little more viable of a rumor if they were to take it that way, because in reference to Destiny 2, before they did crossplay and cross save, PlayStation already had PlayStation exclusive weapons that were in the game for Destiny 2, like Wave Splitter. You could only get that on PlayStation before. So it makes a little more sense for them to take that to a PlayStation exclusive, which Destiny 2 still has a lot of players. It still has a lot of players. Nowhere near as many as it used to have a couple of years ago. Because of Warzone. The Warzone inversion literally took all of their players. So, in reference to that, I also don't think they will because they still have outstanding contracts with Microsoft saying that that game is playable on their console. I don't believe they'll take that out of Microsoft hands either. But that's a huge acquisition because when you own the rights to something, essentially you can do whatever you want with it, right? You do whatever you want with it. So with that, this is gonna be exciting. Like I said, the console wars are in full swing. So we'll see, we'll see what happens. I'm excited. I'm excited about where gaming is going from here. I really am. I can't wait to see what Xbox does these next couple of years because they've been just picking up studios like they've been picking up groceries from the store. Right, they've just been picking up stuff left and right. I can't wait to see what kind of exclusives they have this year, next year, etc. And I will be front and center for it. Last but not least, our last topic is Joe Rogan. And this section is going to be short because we're almost out of time here. This show is essentially supposed to be an hour. Um, Joe Rogan essentially has been canceled. Now, I don't mean his show has been canceled. I mean, like, when I say he's been canceled, Joe Rogan is in the media and he is in trouble right now because on his show is from the graphic that you see on my screen. His show, the Joe Rogan Experience, on numerous occasions, somebody, I'm not sure who it was, put together a compilation of him saying the N-word. And I don't mean just nigga. Nigger has come out of his mouth numerous times on his channel, on his podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience. It was just such a damning thing because I like Joe Rogan. I like Joe Rogan. I've been a Joe Rogan fan since the days of Fear Factor. I like Joe Rogan. I've been a huge fan of the UFC where he was partnered up with Mike Goldberg and they called so many different fights for so many different events over the years. And then of course, Mike Goldberg was jettisoned. He was having issues with Dana White in the UFC, but Joe Rogan is still an announcer there. And I was wondering why so many different sponsors are pulling their support of him and why Dwayne Johnson publicly separated himself from Joe Rogan. So when I looked into it and I watched the video, like I actually watched it, I didn't know he had been saying nigger like that often to where somebody had a damn montage of him saying nigger. Nigga and nigger. The even more offensive variation of the word. Saying it on his channel. Like, I don't know when white celebrities are going to understand this. Even if you're not racist, you are actively being racist by saying that word. You do not have permission, even if you're quoting people like he was. Like he was saying, oh yeah, they called them niggers. Oh yeah, they were, they were saying the word nigger. They were saying nigger. He called him a nigger, or he said that he was my nigga. Is how Joe Rogan said it on his channel. It's still racist. You're a white male. Don't say that shit. Like, I don't know when they're going to realize that. Yes, you will be canceled for that. You will be canceled for that. Now, I don't necessarily believe in cancel culture. I don't think it's improving our society. It's not. All we're doing is pointing fingers at people and not giving them the opportunity to change. Taking the opportunity to change away from them by saying, oust that person from society because they said this or they did this or they used to think this. Like, people are essentially being canceled for shit that they tweeted 10 years ago. That's not fair. That's not fair. This was a different world, a different society 10 years ago. Hell, 5 years ago, you could call your friends, and forgive me for saying this, 5 years ago, you could call your friends the F word, that rhymes with mag, you know what I'm saying? You could call your friends that as a term of endearment. Like if you want to bust your friend's balls, you used to be able to call him that. Today, you can't say that shit, period. You cannot say that shit. And people who used to tweet these things, because I've actually said that word in a derogatory way, and I conflated that with somebody being a coward or being weak-minded when I was calling them that. Calling them the word that rhymes with bag. I had to take that out of my vocabulary. I wasn't canceled. When I found out how damaging that was to the LGBTQIA plus community, ooh, I said that right the first time. Yeah, yay me. The LGBTQIA plus community, when I found out how damaging it was to them, I took it out of my vocabulary. I do not say that anymore. 2 times in the past couple months, I slipped up and said it out of anger on my channel, and I was dead wrong for that shit. I was dead wrong for that, and I immediately caught myself when I said it. You know, I was raging while I was playing, and somebody did something very cowardly in the game, and I called them that. And that was the first time I had slipped up in years. So we got to stop canceling people. But should he have been canceled for doing that? Yes. Yes. But come on, man. Come on. Nobody has to tell you that that's wrong. How old is Joe Rogan? Like 50? Like, you know. Like, come on, bro. You know. You can't say that shit. Even when you're quoting somebody else. Even when you're singing along the rap lyrics. You can't say that shit. I'm sorry. You can't say it. Just take it out of your vocabulary. Whatever that. If you have to literally stand in front of a mirror and practice to where you don't say the N-word anymore, do it. You are causing people harm. Just know that. Don't wonder why you can't say it, or I'm not racist, so I should be able to say it to people as a term of endearment. No, you shouldn't. You're not black. And that goes for Hispanic people too. Now, we essentially give Hispanics and Asians and anybody else that's not white a ghetto pass to be able to say it. Like, I've dated Hispanic girls who called me the N-word, and it didn't bother me whatsoever because they weren't white. Their people didn't enslave my people. It didn't bother me. You know, I've had Asian women call me that. I've had Asian guys call me that. Didn't bother me. Didn't bother me. They're minorities too. I guess it just, they technically don't have the right to say it either, but when they do say it, like, who does it gonna bother? Tekashi 6ix9ine says nigga all the time in his music. All the time when he's being interviewed. And, you know, in his interview on the Breakfast Club a couple of years ago, the famous one, they were like, well, are you feel comfortable saying the N-word? He was like, well, who's gonna tell me I can't? He was like, I'm not white. Like, I'm nowhere near white. You know, he's Dominican. He's like, I'm Dominican. I'm not even white. So why does it matter, like, when I say it? Now, you guys know I'm not racist. So, and then white people are like, oh, well, that's what we're saying. No, no, you don't get that. Your people enslave my people and use that to demean my people. You cannot say that shit. It's okay when he says it. He's not white. So I don't know how many times people are gonna make this screw up because it wasn't a mistake. You make this screw up and then you have to apologize for it. Which, let's be real, Joe Rogan's apology was bullshit. Like, even though I like him, Joe Rogan's always been a little more on the leaning towards asshole, you know. He's always been a bit of an ass. But that was a bullshit apology. Like, he does not feel bad for what he said. He does not. I'm pretty sure he feels bad if he caused anybody any type of harm. I do think he feels bad for that, but for saying nigga and nigger on his channel, he felt too comfortable to say the shit. That's how you know he's not honest about how he feels in reference to the apology. Like, he literally posted something on Instagram and on Twitter, and he was like, oh, when people ask me how I'm handling this bullshit. That's what he called. He said, how I'm handling this bullshit. Bullshit being how he's in trouble in society for him saying nigga. Like, he thinks it's bullshit that he's in trouble. White privilege. But we're going to wrap it up right there. That's it for our show. Thank you guys for listening in. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to try to upload this to YouTube later. If I am able to create this as an MP3, this would go on SoundCloud, or this should go on iHeartRadio or something like that. I don't know where I can upload this everywhere. I don't think I'll be able to put this on Discord. If I can, cool. But to some of my closer friends, I will send you snippets of this so that you can watch it and tell me how I did. We're back. Clash Island is back. And this is the style that we're going to take from here. Our next episode, I don't yet have an itinerary. I don't know why I like that word. I don't yet have an itinerary of what we're going to discuss in the next episode, but we're going to try to do the podcast once a week. I'm going to try to do it once a week on one of my days off. Like, today's my last day off, it being Tuesday. We're going to try to do it once a week, collect information. And I may have more categories going on. So we have 4 today. So we'll see what happens. But again, thank you guys for listening in. This is your host with the most, DEFF-SOUL. You also can call me Darian. We will be back with the next episode next week, and we out of here, y'all. Thank you for listening.